I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Bel Air Beach, Monday, March 7, 2016. If all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eddie, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gerald Cohen. Here. Councilmember Pamela Gunn. Here. Councilmember Mitchell Croft.
Here.
Councilmember John Petrowski.
Here.
Councilmember Wanda Schwier.
Here.
Vice Mayor Leslie Notero.
Here.
Mayor Bob Baldwin.
Here.
City Manager Nancy Gonzalez.
Here.
City Attorney Paul Marino.
Here.
Community Services Director Alan Godfrey.
Here. Okay, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda, or?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add, I guess it would be 5A, regarding hiring a consultant regarding underground and utility financing.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Approval of February 1st, 2016 City Council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Citizens' comments. Each speaker will be recognized once and limited to a 3-minute presentation on any subject that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Yes.
I noticed undergrounding wasn't on this part of the agenda, but could we open up?
Well, I mean, I think it got amended to be added as,
Well, could we do that, or could we add that to the agenda?
yeah, it has
It
been.
is.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was added as five
I
days.
couldn't hear what you were talking about.
All right, sorry. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Okay, if you could state your name and address, please. I know you're right.
Dr. Ward. I'd like to ask our city attorney, Mr. Marino, if he has looked into drawing up the non-ad valorem tax assessment for our area in Bellevue Shore, Bellevue Estates.
No, that's not my job to be looking up what the tax assessments can be. That would be staff of the property appraiser's responsibility to provide you with that
But
information.
I'm speaking of your two appearances by the legal lawyer that you had up here, and he seemed to be very knowledgeable about this, and I just wondered if you talked with him or if been in communication towards getting us the non-ad valorem tax assessment for our community, our little area.
No, sir, I haven't gone that far thus far. The only thing I've done lately is just to get from him a template ordinance that I put together and submitted to council for their consideration if they want to go forward.
Yeah, and I think, Dr. Ward, that'll be part of the next step to consider.
Next step,
So,
right.
yes, but thank you. Okay, appreciate it.
As long as we got our next step coming.
Here's the next step, baby steps. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Seeing no one, will close the citizen comment portion. Item number 4, the regular agenda, consideration of ordinance 16-01. Paul?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending the City of Bel Air Beach Comprehensive Plan pursuant to Section 163.3184 Florida statutes, amending new goals, objectives, and policies and maps as presented herein within the ordinance, and providing for severability and providing for effective date.
All right, thank you, Paul. And Laura, I see you're here to answer questions. Could you walk us through the highlights of this?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Mayor Baldwin, council members. My name is Laura Diedenbach. I'm with Diedenbach Planning Associates. I'm your planning consultant who's been working with you to update your comprehensive plan. On December 12th, you transmitted the draft plan, or excuse me, December 7th, you transmitted your draft plan to the Department of Economic Opportunities. They submitted comments back to us, which we received on February 8th. They had only one objection, and it was really more just a clarification that we weren't getting rid of our maps, that we were continuing to have those adopted. So we just state very plainly in our response to them that we are continuing to hold the maps that are in the comprehensive plan as they are. We have one map that's being changed, which is the coastal high hazard area map. And I'll go over the changes to that in just a moment. But there were some other comments submitted by state agencies and also the PPC. And so changes have been made to your comprehensive plan. I'll walk through those with you now. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. If we can start on the document that is your goals, objectives, and policies. In the future land use element on page 3, at the request of the Pinellas Planning Council, we've added the statement about transportation and utility use in residential low. And it's just for consistency with the state, with the countywide plan that says that transportation utility uses shall not exceed a maximum area of 3 acres. And that's language that's straight out of the countywide plan. Additionally, future land use policy 1.1.7 and 1.1.8 on page 6 of your future land use element were requested to be placed in our plan by the PPC for consistency with the countywide plan. First, the new countywide plan that was adopted in August requires us to have this compatibility matrix that you see in policy 1.1.7, which just shows our future land use map categories and then the corresponding countywide plan map categories. So it's pretty straightforward.
I have a question. It's policy 1.1.8. I was reading this. It says, the city shall deny an amendment, except that they may, at their sole discretion, consider approving such an amendment.
Yes.
I'm confused.
I don't know that I'll be able to shed any light for you on that. This is language that it was adopted in the August countywide plan. This is for consistency with that countywide plan and was actually the language that PPC staff suggested that we use to reframe it as a city policy. So I think, what it says is that that you shall deny it if it increases density or intensity, except that at your sole and absolute discretion, you can consider approving such amendment based on balancing the following criteria as are determined applicable and significant to the subject amendment. So how I read that is that if you can't make a case in any of these subsections A through H that are the balancing criteria for increasing density and intensity in the coastal high hazard area, then you shall deny it. But if you can make a case under subsection A through H that the balancing criteria can be applied to that comprehensive plan amendment, then you can approve it. But these criteria need to be part of your decision-making process. I'm sorry.
Am I reading this correctly? I mean, if you want to increase the density, one of the things you have to do is to make sure that it will result in the utilization of existing infrastructure as opposed to requiring the expenditure of public funds for this. Am I really reading that correctly?
Yes.
So in other words, if you add more density that requires additional infrastructure, road improvements to really handle that density, you can't do it. You have to use the existing. That seems like it's counterintuitive to concurrency.
Well, one of the important criteria, that's always been a parameter of the coastal high hazard area, and really what it means is that we're not talking about replacement infrastructure or maintaining infrastructure, but just that increment up to meet the new density and intensity. And yes, it would seem to be opposite of concurrency, but we're getting rid of transportation concurrency.
Well, we know that.
Yeah.
We do definitely know that. I think I know who wrote this, actually. But, you know, that's a big problem if your current infrastructure can't handle it and you want to add density. And then it's okay to add density even though, in fact, you're almost, that's a requirement that you don't approve. It seems ridiculous. That's not you, I'm just,
Yeah, I wish that I could offer you better explanation. And I don't think that we have any discretion about
No,
adopting this
I'm-
language at all, but
but that is crazy, right?
it could potentially be problematic for future development.
Okay. All right.
That might be something that you want to bring up at
Well, do
the
we have to,
future
do
meeting
we have, well,
with,
do we have to comply with the county?
you do have to comply with the countywide plan. And this was something that was specifically referenced in their letter to us, so if we didn't include it, we might be risking an objection from them
Okay.
for plan consistency. The next policy is in your conservation and coastal management element, which is on page 16. There are two policies and an objective here. One was just a Scrivener's error and something that Nancy had alerted me to, or City Manager Gonzalez had alerted me to after our last meeting, which is that policy 1.2.3, yacht club needed to be replaced with Beller Beach Marina, which now has been done. And then in objective 3 and in policy 1.3.1, we'd amended it to, we thought that this was the language that we needed to be compliant with our, with the new studies that had come out on the state level for hurricane evacuations. And the guidance back from the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council was that they suggested some new language, but really everything in terms of them being the agency that coordinates hurricane evacuation, and these studies needed to be put back into the plan. So those have really just been reverted back to their original language. And then they suggested, instead of labeling a specific study, to just reference the latest hurricane evacuation study published by the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. So that's just kind of administrative language. It doesn't change the intent of the policy. And then on the next page, policy 1.3.4, we have removed this policy. Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue maintains, updates, and reviews this information regarding individuals requiring assistance in the event of a natural disaster. That information is confidential and the city is not privy to that information, so therefore we cannot maintain and update that information. So that's just part of our intergovernmental coordination and kind of a status update on that policy. And then policy 1.4.1, the last time we updated your comprehensive plan, there was a specific Pinellas County definition of coastal high hazard area, and that was what was included in your comprehensive plan. Since then, the legislature has revised that definition, and now we're all under the state definition, which if you go back and read your comprehensive plan before the update, we looked at both the state definition of coastal high hazard area, which was included here, and also the Pinellas County definition, which was more restrictive. Now they're the same, and it's the more restrictive version, but now that's the legislative language. So we've taken out the language that refers to the PPC only coastal high hazard area. Now it refers to the state regulatory coastal high hazard area, but functionally it really hasn't changed anything at all. But they did update the map. It's still based on the Category 1 storm surge line established in the SLOSH model, but there has been a map update, and that was included in your packet and recommended to be updated by the PPC. So those changes you'll see too reflected in your data and analysis when we get to that particular thing. I see that that changes very little for the city. You're still majority in the coastal high hazard area. On page 19, policy 1.6.1, we've just changed this to, instead of saying clearly post-evacuation routes, that we coordinate with Pinellas County Emergency Management to ensure that routes are posted, and this just takes into account that they're the responsible agency for doing that posting. And then on page 30, which is the last page, capital improvements element policy 1.5.11, we're taking out the language, the whole policy that's related to de minimis impacts, since we're removing transportation concurrency. That is no longer a required provision. There have been companion updates to the data and analysis. And if you take out that document on page 6, section 4.2.7 is the revision to the data and analysis that goes with the revision to the coastal high hazard area definitions, and this just gives an explanation of how the policy is changing, and that all the definitions have been merged into one definition under Florida statutes. And then that appears again on page 20 with the data and analysis section in 4.6.1 in your coastal management conservation element. So that just changes the data and analysis to reflect the policy changes that we've made. And that is the balance of the changes that's been made to, or since you've last seen this document. Since the transmittal document, we've addressed all agency questions and concerns, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, were you going to talk about the change in the new map?
Just that the change in the new coastal high hazard area map reflects the statutory definition, and it will be included and adopted as part of our plan. On the future land use map, we have a sort of a coastal storm area that encompasses the entire city, but the new coastal high hazard area is represented there in that new map. I couldn't quite discern. I knew there were some changes, but holding the two maps up together, I couldn't see that there was a whole lot of change because there's still so much of the city that's within that category 1. But now that map is now compliant with the statutory definition. And that's really the only map that's changing. All the other maps, because this is an update, you haven't done any future land use map changes, which would be the other trigger of a map amendment. All the other maps will stay static until your next update, because that's the next 30-year update.
Thank you. Do you have a motion for consideration of ordinance 16-01?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Any discussion on council? Patty, if you could call roll, please.
Councilmember Cohen? Aye. Councilmember Gunn? Aye. Councilmember Croft?
Aye.
Councilmember Petrowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Notaro?
Aye.
Mayor Baldwin?
Aye. Motion, the ordinance 16-01 passes 7-0 on the first reading. Item number 5, consideration of proposed budget schedule for the fiscal year 2016-2017. Since Melvin's not here, do you want to?
We always set this budget schedule in March, so council can look at the dates. What I'll do, I didn't do it this time, but I will tomorrow, highlight the dates of the meetings and send everybody that. That's usually very helpful to you, so you know when the meetings are. And this is to help you plan vacation and staff vacation, so we try to get it done as early as possible.
You're not asking, you're telling?
Yeah.
Any comments or? No? Okay, thank you, Nancy. Item 5A, the discussion to pursue hiring a consultant to look into creating a tax zone or a special assessment zone. That was the added element. Do we need any further discussion? Any thoughts?
We need to direct the staff to look into finding the appropriate consultant who's done work in the area that can work with us and bring us some proposals next month.
Okay.
That was the motion of second.
Yeah.
Is
There's a motion.
is that clear enough?
Well, you know, the only one that we've heard from is Chris Rowe from the one from the Brian Olive, and I'm not, Paul may have know of other firms that are, you know, knowledgeable in what we're looking at and the information that we're asking for, so.
You want a legal consultant or you want an engineering type consultant?
Well,
What type of consultant?
we want to pursue financing the first section of undergrounding by creating a special assessment or a special tax zone, whoever that is. We'll leave it to staff to decide who the best party to do that is.
That would be a legal consultant and not an engineer.
Yeah, that would have to be your legal consultant.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I would suggest we maybe put together a small RFP sort of describing what we're trying to do, and then let Nancy consult with a couple of the other local governments, find out who they're using, and maybe send that out and see what kind of response we get. I mean, start a place to start.
And I would ask permission to allow City Attorney Moreno to maybe possibly give me some other names of some firms that he may be aware of, you know, that have done this, other than the one that we know
Right.
about, so.
I'm sorry, you would go out for an RFQ, request for qualifications, and then you proceed for your proposal then.
Right,
So your terminology, you'd request for
right.
qualifications of a firm to do that with a scope of service. So your first process would be the RFQ.
And you couldn't get that done in a month. So you could not get that back for the April meeting.
That's going to take,
Right,
That's very lengthy.
right. So, the chairman begins with a single step.
That's right. That's right.
So, so
I guess the motion is to start the process towards hiring a consultant.
Okay,
Put that foot up, take that step.
I'm sorry.
Put that foot up, take that step.
Okay.
So do we
I
have?
second that
Oh,
motion.
second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Mayor and council comments. John? No? Nothing else? No. Make a trend, Mitch?
No, I'll let you do
No.
Suncoast League of Cities is
Mr. Mayor?
sponsored.
I'd like to say thank you for your service for these last few years, and you've done a super good job, and we expect to see you down here again, okay?
All right, thank you, Dr. Ward.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
As you all know, we have to, as elected officials, take continuing education in ethics every year. Suncoast League of Cities is sponsoring one on May 24th at the Largo Library, and also one on April 29th in Plant City. So I'm sure we'll get the information out, but those are the two that they're sponsoring around here for that experience. Yeah. At the Mayor's Council, there was a discussion of a possible request to the County Commission to repeal the blue laws that the county has regarding alcohol sales. Current county ordinance says, all such business establishments shall remain closed on each Sunday from the hours of 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. Other days of the week, they can open bars at 8 o'clock, but on Sunday, you can't open at 11. It came up like, at the past meeting, and so for this meeting, they asked Sheriff Baltieri to come to get his opinion, you know, from the law enforcement side about opening bars earlier on Sunday. And his comments were things like, he doesn't see a problem with it. He said there's no difference having a Bloody Mary at 10:30 on Saturday morning versus Sunday morning. He didn't see a problem. So the Mayor's Council, I believe, is going to go forward and request to the County Commission to repeal this blue law. And all of the people at the Mayor's Council were asked to bring it back to their councils to sort of get their opinion on whether we support the repealing and just make it consistent so that, you know, throughout every day of the week. So I'm of the opinion that we should, you know, just make it consistent every day. The sheriff doesn't have a problem with it at all, enforcement-wise. So unless I hear otherwise, when I go back to the Mayor's Council next meeting, next month, say, hey, you know, we're in favor of repealing it, of asking the county to repeal it. That's all the important stuff I have. Yes, ethics in Navarro.
Thank you. I guess I had two items. One is that I just received back all the performance evaluations for. Were you going to say something?
No, she's pointing at me, I said,
Yeah, I did. What was somebody asking me?
I didn't hear you yesterday. I just wanted to mention that I've got a class. Oh, that's what I'm trying to find out, Mr. Mayor.
All right. No, I got back all the performance evaluations for Patty, the city clerk, and Nancy, the city manager. And I mean, as usual, they're both stellar. I mean, I think Patty, it was all exceeds expectation except for one. There was one like Hart Grader that gave you, meets expectation on one category. But I mean, really pretty phenomenal. And I mean, I just want to personally thank you too for all the work that you do for the city, not only as a city clerk, which is supposed to be a full-time job, but wedding planner and marketing consultant and everything else that you do for the city. So thank you for that. And
You guys
Nancy,
make it easy, thank you.
and Nancy, it was pretty much the same. I mean, there were only 4 categories, and 4 was the highest. And again, I think everyone had rated you a 4 on everything. I think with maybe one exception, there was a 3. But again, just want to thank you. And,
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
and then I just, I want to thank everybody for sort of putting up with me for the last few years, especially Alan. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure working with the city. I really have enjoyed it, and it's been sort of the high point of what I've done. And so I just want to thank all of y'all, and I really appreciate your, just being able to work with you.
I'm sorry, I thought she said, you gotta come to me first. I just wanted to mention, I think it's on, which date, semi-scheduled, the 11th, 22nd, to put on an orientation for new members, for 2 people, 1 board member, and 1 city council person, in advance of that mandatory annual. I don't understand why they make it annual, because it's the same material over and over again. It's probably one area or several areas of law that just doesn't change. But
Why don't we repeal that too?
well, it's a state law, unfortunately. You got to just see your representative for that. But we're going to have that one on, I think it's the 26th, if I remember correctly. And that's all I have.
Nancy?
Yes, I do. From all these years, when we started building this building, I said if I can make it through building a new building, I can probably make it through anything. And I couldn't have done it without Rob, so I really appreciate him calling me and talking to me and driving home every night. And but it's been a pleasure. I wanted to let council know that, and bear with me a moment, when we start working on the budget every year, and we do start early, I always cringe when I look at the dollar amount that's being spent on health insurance for the employees. They do receive, it is paid 100% by the city, and dependents and spouses, the city pays 25%, and the rest is out of the employee's pocket. So the finance officer and I got together and we sat down and I said, can you reach out to your FGFO fellow women and men and see what these cities are doing? Because it's everywhere, the high cost of insurance, not only family, but single coverage. So what she came back with is several cities in Florida, and I spoke with city managers at my Scram luncheon, and Madeira Beach and Seminole both, and now some of the other smaller cities are looking at, and I hate to use the word stipend, I would rather say flex pay, are offering an option to their employees of either staying on the city's plan, being covered and paid 100% by the city, or opting out and getting a flat rate each month. So I thought, well, that sounds good. Now, how do you come about, how do you figure out the amount, that dollar amount? And everybody pretty much agreed that you take a little bit less than what the lowest premium is being paid for one of your employees. And of course, our employees are getting up there in age. We only have a few, we don't even have any that are under the age of 50. They're all right now in the 60s. And we came up with an amount, and we have had 3 employees opt out, and it's a total cost of those 3 opting out to the city of $16,931.38 a year, which I think is a big savings. Melanie and I got together, we did write a policy, so there was a very strict policy on it. We could change that figure every year depending on how much insurance goes up, because ours goes up every year. So now we have 4 employees remaining on that plan. So I wanted to let you know about the savings, and I'll be back in April with a resolution because we're going to have to change the personnel manual to reflect that option, because right now it just talks about the city paying 100%. So, and everybody seems to be happy with it. We did go to a different plan because the current plan we were on with Humana was discontinued. So now the 4 employees are being covered by Blue Cross Blue Shield. And like I said, it changes every year. So next March, who knows what it's going to change to. But I just wanted to let you know that that has been an administrative change in policies. And that's all I have.
I got a question. How's this going to tie into, and it's the first time I've heard about this, tie into the Affordable Care Act on mandatory insurance or penalty they have to pay if they don't reach the mandatory insurance, and which of the various plans and what deductibles are all these factors taken into consideration?
One of the things that is required in the policy is you have to provide proof of insurance to be able to opt out. So, and that's what those 3 employees have done. They provided the city with proof of insurance coverage. And, I have helped. I'm one of the ones that opted out. I'm on my husband's insurance. So that doesn't play into any of this. It doesn't affect it in any way. We talked to the auditors about it, and like I said, and it was really odd because some of the cities don't even have written policies. I said we didn't even want to mess with the policy, but Melanie and I felt that we needed to have a very strict policy in place for any of those who want to opt out. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.